Good afternoon, evening, where I am. Um, we're losing light. If it goes, it goes. I have nothing else. Cybertrucks, Cybermen, with their cyber cars and their cyber wives, their cyber marriages and their cyber divorces. So, reason I made the video. I mean, I said it in the video, but the idea of some of it was sparked by um what I did. What no time, the self-driving thing, which I have time to talk about now, which is the idea that you can I find that so fascinating because I was realizing through the research of this video when I spoke about I was seeing news articles about how the truck is just doing bad and like bad things were happening. I just realized this is very distracting. Um no, I can't turn it off. I don't care. That through the update process of the Cybertruck, that it was in many ways actually getting worse. So I don't know what the legality of that is. It doesn't feel like it should be legal. Uh, there should be some protection somewhere in some country against that. That's ridiculous. The idea that you can buy this $100,000 truck and over the course of its updates, it gets worse and not only worse, more dangerous. The full self driving thing getting worse in updates is. It feels like a violation of human rights almost. That you could get into a car and without knowing it, things have been changed in a way that makes your life substantially more dangerous. Self driving is the thing that I was going to talk about. So, the self-driving thing and the robo-taxi thingy mabob, the self-driving taxi that they are trialing in Texas, I want to believe, because there's no laws over there. They kind of interplay with each other, like a lot, an excessive amount. So there's an article that inspired this train of thought that made me realize I just don't really have time for it. Because I knew a little bit about it before, by Contrary Research, which basically details the differences between Waymo and Tesla and their self-driving taxi offerings. Not specifically like price or performance or really anything like that. There is a video by Marquez Brownlee on MQB, whatever, the channel, where he takes both of them frequently. I believe in the Tesla, there's actually like a guy sitting in the car just to make sure it doesn't crash, which is a bad sign. But it is a trial, so you can give them benefit of the doubt. No, this article speaks mostly on the technical facts, which is very interesting to me because I'm a ghoulish little freak. So Waymo's cars, when you put them next to each other, there's a chasm between the two. A shocking difference. I don't even... Like a child could tell the difference. It had been a known fact at this point that the setup for Tesla self-driving is just not good enough. Or it had flaws. I think there's a video by Mark Rober. If there is, I'll put it there. Video by someone, I'm going to try and find it, of specifically where these pitfalls would come up. And I realize now that I'm bearing the lead. Cameras. So the Tesla family relies on a series of cameras, which is, even at the time, was actually really advanced. And it was something that I didn't necessarily compliment, but I pointed out in the first video about the Cybertruck, that like, for as expensive as they are, cars have been well behind the times in terms of technology in a way that Tesla wasn't. Like reversing cameras. Reversing cameras up until like 4 years ago, now, maybe 5 years ago, were bad. Like, horrible. Like 360p perspective wasn't lined up to the camera's to the car's axis. Horrible like infotainment display, like the map systems. Every single car manufacturer uses a different map, and that kind of stuff is infuriating. So when the Tesla Model Y comes out, I believe in 2013 or whatever it was, years ago, and it has 6 or 8 actual high quality cameras, like at least 1080p, like at least modern day technology. And they're like, we have all these, we can read all this information. You're like, wow, that's really interesting. I still wouldn't want full self-driving off that information, but that's really interesting. And the like, it's useful for like their alarm feature. When somebody like hits the car or something, the camera's like a recording. Like, that's what you would use it for, and that's cool. They never evolved from that. So the Tesla self-driving, full self-driving, as it's called, which isn't full self-driving, they just call it that. It doesn't actually full self-drive for you, which feels legally dubious. Still uses those 6 to 8 to 12 or whatever cameras. Actually, I can just check. Tesla Model 3 has 8 cameras in total. 3 in the front, 3 on the top of the windscreen, 2 on either side on the front, 2 on either side in the middle, and 1 at the back, which feels remarkably low. In comparison, the Waymo 5th gen Jaguar 1 Pace, L Pace, I don't really know, which is the self-driving car, has 29 cameras. But that's not all. It has 6 radar sensors and 5 LiDAR sensors. So best practice is to have a whole series of ways to detect information and then overlay them together to create a full picture. The Tesla doesn't do this and relies just on cameras and like depth estimation. Not a very solid foundation for pretty much anything, let alone like my life in your hands. So in that Mark Rober video or whoever video that I got sidetracked from, like reflective panels, just it couldn't detect them. It had no idea, or a type of reflective panel. So it just drove straight through like styrofoam that was painted in a very specific way, like a Wile E. Coyote cartoon. It was ridiculous, and it is ridiculous, and they haven't changed it. Now, radar and LiDAR, for those of you who don't know, is a word that means something. It's actually an acronym. Yeah. Radar is radio detection and ranging, and LiDAR is light detection and ranging. So they are different technologies, but in practice they act the exact same, just with like very different or minor differences in quality. LiDAR is extremely accurate. When you are doing any kind of simulation, LiDAR is what you would go to. Video games or like sim games use it as a selling point, that they have gone to the racetracks and LiDAR scanned them. They can be so accurate they detect like the minute imperfections in gravel and like the asphalt. So like it is a remarkable technology, but it is kind of difficult to like process because it's a lot of information. So it's generally used very narrowly, not just like in specification, but also like in degrees. So there are some situations, especially at the front of the car, where all 3 of them have overlap, like a lot of overlap, and it creates a situation where there is just that much more information to read from. And not only that, there is a picture here that I don't understand. However, the the broad aspect of it is that they use multiple different models, like large language models, at different parts of the process in order to better utilize the information that they're receiving. So there's multiple inputs into the same output. It's more complicated, and there is words here that indicate it's perhaps not super scalable. However, one thing that is interesting is that the geofenced areas that they operate in have been LiDAR scanned themselves. So in practice, this means that if they ever lose their geolocation, they still understand where they are. They have like an inherent understanding of their surroundings, which is the end goal of like robo taxis. That's the whole point of them, as opposed to having to figure it out every single time that they're on the street. Tesla, on the other hand, seems like a parody, or like the first iteration, not something. Waymo's came first, by the way. I want to point that out. Waymo's came first, and then the robo taxis are the most recent addition, the Tesla robo taxi, and it only uses cameras, and it only uses like a single model in the entire process. So it's just the way that this is written is, it says, this is the same article, it relies on tens of billions of miles of camera data each year from its existing vehicles on the road, compared to Waymo's millions of miles each year. So there seems to be this weird kind of philosophy behind. So, okay, I should start at the start. The reason the Teslas don't have LiDAR and radar is that they are expensive. Like, it's good technology. It's expensive to implement. It's hard to use, and you need to keep data, and it's a whole thing. It's work, and it's work that I think is worthwhile for many use cases. But if you're perhaps just a bit cheap, or you don't want to do it, or it adds all of these moving cogs into a system that you don't want to support, when I think that Tesla is like already swamped. I mean, I mentioned this in the last video that I did. Tesla is swamped with issues. Their production standards are terrible, despite their high customer satisfaction. They're not very good at making cars. And LiDAR and radar sensors would just add a whole nother thing that they need to account for. And I understand that they don't want to, but at the same time, if they don't want to, I don't think they should be making full self-driving cars. Elon himself has spoken about it. He has said, humans drive with eyes and biological neural nets. So it makes sense, I don't know if that's misquoted, that cameras and silicon neural nets are only way to achieve generalized solution to self-driving. Is this a tweet? The grammar's incorrect. I'm going to assume this is either misquoted or a tweet. There's missing those. And the article even says Elon remains skeptical of LiDAR in 2025 in an earnings call, calling it a crutch. Obviously, humans drive without shooting lasers out of our eyes. Now, this is done for a multitude of reasons, and whether that's because he genuinely doesn't understand it and this is a truly held belief, or because he is putting up a smokescreen in order to be cheap, I don't know. I don't know the inner workings of this man's heart. So the article here says that in the early 2010s, the combination of sensors that to put on the car would have cost $75,000 per unit, which is a lot. But in 2024, they estimated that Waymo, the car that the fifth generation one that I've been talking about, costs around $12,700. And there are Chinese LiDAR makers pricing units as low as $200 each. So whether any of that's true or this is the case, it seems like this is the direction things are going in. And it is starting to seem more and more like just like a philosophical difference. And that my best interpretation of the information is that the philosophy at Tesla is that, I'm saying that a lot, they're just going to kind of brute force it. In the same way that there are certain situations where we cannot make the process more seamless or more efficient, we just need to build bigger things. It seems like their solution is just to build a bigger neural net or have faster processors on the car. And in a sense, getting bad information and having a smarter brain to process it, which is kind of crazy. The quote that he just said, where humans we don't shoot lasers out of our eyes, and it's like, yeah, we don't, but we're also really smart. Like, not you, me, I'm really smart. But the obvious difference between, like, in that equation, or in that metaphor, if the Tesla isn't going to shoot lasers out of its eyes, and it is going to get information the same way humans do, then it needs to have a brain as powerful as a human does. And that is the end goal of technology, if not the end times and the singularity. What I mean, it sounds simple when he says it, and I guess that's why he's tricked so many rich people into giving him money, but yeah, we don't need LiDAR sensors, we'll just make a bigger brain. If you could have done it, we would have done it already. This is ridiculous. I'm just reading ahead of the article, and I realized I didn't actually clarify something, and you can't actually read my thoughts. So one of the many benefits of LiDAR and radar is that they aren't limited by junk stuff, things like snow or mist or fog. They pierce through it. There's a lot of things, the things that make conditions difficult to drive in, rain, nighttime, stuff like that, not nullified, but in practice become much less of a factor as opposed to cameras, because it's difficult to see at night and see in rain. That's why accidents happen more frequently in bad conditions. That's why we call them bad conditions to begin with, because they're dangerous. And they just kind of don't matter for LiDAR and radar, which is just an added benefit. The current place, one of the reasons why the geolocated areas are like in Seattle or something and like Texas is because the conditions in those areas are generally predictable. They don't get like hailstorms. So that they are putting these cars in the best conditions, and even then, Tesla is coming up short. In comparison, Tesla full self-driving is genuinely kind of dangerous, and the numbers are out currently, but there's not a whole lot of evidence to suggest that it does any better than like human people. It gets a lot of things wrong when it really shouldn't, and the fact that they call it full self-driving is super misleading, and that's why they're in that lawsuit in Australia for this like exact reason. Yeah, I should have this video should be plenty long. I guess I should talk about. I changed the aesthetics of the video. I don't know if that matters to anyone. I like this more. It's easy to work with. It's quicker to export. The previous thing, the previous aesthetic for the videos was like, it ended up just. If something went wrong, it became much more difficult to fix because of how baked in all of the effects were. So this is less baked in and more flexible. So if I mess something up, I can go back and fix it really easily, which happened in this video, and it took like 3 minutes as opposed to like an hour. So that's fine. That's good. I like that. I'll see how it goes. I'll see how I play with it. Maybe I change some things. Maybe I don't. I'll have to sleep on it. And you guys better have liked that Blender animation, that fire sim. I put in work for that. All right. I have a mesh. I built a mesh that emitted the fire. That is the top of the Cybertruck. I lined it up. I matched it. I didn't composite it at all. I didn't do any of the extra work that would make it look real. I put in an HDRI for the smoke. I mean, that's literally more could you want from me? Apart from like actually making it good. That's it. Video's done exporting. I'm gonna get back to work for a little bit. I've recorded a video about Kingdom Hearts, the first game, and I'm editing it on the down low on my off hours. I just gotta get a bit more footage. It's not super edited or anything, but it'll be on the second channel eventually. And that should push me over the limit to earn money on this channel. I don't know how many ads I'll put on it. Probably very few, especially for the length. They just keep it. I don't know. I feel like taking a nap. Let's all have a collective nap. It's mass hysteria. Using my powers for good. Oh, that's weird. Okay, bye bye.